Hayato was a lonely orphan whose family was wiped out by aliens, but somehow gains their power. Years later, he enrolls hiding as a normal student in a prestigious academy to eliminate all aliens in revenge, but ends up clapping all the baddies in school instead.
I've been waiting for this moment. We're gonna have some fun.
It all began with the memory of a younger Hayato trying to get to safety with a young girl during an attack by a savage, an extraterrestrial being whose origins are unknown. Unfortunately, while running, the creature hit them with a powerful energy blast, which sent them flying. When Hayato recovered, he saw that the overgrown crab had grabbed his friend. Just before it squashed her to death, it was shot, causing it to release the girl. Hayato rushed to her side and saw that the savage had injured the girl, leaving a green poisonous liquid in her chest. Worried, Hayato tried to save the girl by sucking out the position as much as he could. The next moment, an older Hayato awoke on a plane and realized he had been dreaming about a girl from his past, but couldn't recall her identity. Soon, the plane arrived at Little Garden, an Academy City ship. He'd enrolled at the Academy to train to become a savage slayer. When he disembarked from the plane, he spotted two girls with a welcome banner waiting for him. Not wanting to draw attention to himself, he snuck away from the airport without them realizing and went to the auditorium where the entrance ceremony would be held. When he arrived outside the hall and met other freshmen, a brown-haired chibi Lol-Lee excitedly pointed at him and asked if he was Kisaragi Hayato, the boy who had gotten the highest score during the entrance exams. Immediately, the other students stopped what they were doing and gathered around him like moths drawn to a flame. Hayato managed to crawl away during the commotion, but just when he thought he was safe, he was tackled to the ground by an excited male student named Emil Crossfoot. Emil hugged the confused Hayato like they were longtime besties and told him how he'd been dying to see him. He let Hayato know he was also a freshman like him and gave him a smile that made him rethink his batting status. Later, the vertically challenged gnome, who drew everyone's attention to him, apologized for letting her mouth run like a faucet. Her name was Reitia, and while she apologized, her friend Fritz put his hand on her head, which annoyed her. While she told him off, Emil explained to Hayato that the two were childhood friends and had a habit of bickering like an old married couple. After he said this, he grabbed hold of Hayato's hand, causing Fritz to point out that they were too close for people who had just met. Reitia added that Emil was giving off rainbow vibes, but he didn't seem to care and moved closer to Hayato, who looked ready to bolt. A few minutes later, the entrance ceremony began, and the student council vice presidents, Erica and Liddy, introduced the freshmen to the captain of Little Garden and the student council president, Claire Harvey. Just as Claire stepped onto the stage, the two girls who had gone to welcome Hayato at the airport rushed in. They apologized for being late, explaining they had gone to the airport to welcome Hayato. Liddy pointed out that he had already arrived at the auditorium. To their shock, Claire announced they would be expelled for breaking the rules. Emil immediately stood up, calling it unfair to expel them for a minor mistake. Despite Hayato's attempt to quiet him, Emil kept talking and said he hated when power was abused. This prompted Liddy to tell him he'd be expelled if he didn't shut up. Emil said he didn't care, so Claire announced that he was also expelled. However, she asked Hayato if he was against her decision to expel Emil and the girls. Hayato said he was and pleaded with Claire to reconsider her decision since he was partially to blame for what happened. Claire told him she'd only withdraw the order if he beat her in a duel the next day. A challenge Emil gladly accepted, even though he knew Hayato had zero combat experience. After the ceremony, Emil took Hayato to see the main technologist of Little Garden, Charlotte Demandius. Charlotte was also the lead researcher of the 100, a special stone which granted slayers their power. In the lab, Hayato also met Charlotte's assistant Medi and Little Garden's autonomous computer Liza. Charlotte handed Hayato his 100 and explained how it worked. She said that only those who responded to the stone could use it, and that the stone changed forms to match its wielder. She also showed him footage of Claire using her 100, making him understand that he was royally screwed. After they left Dexter's laboratory, Charlotte's laboratory, Emil took Hayato to the training ground. He instructed him on how to activate his 100, and once Hayato did that, he was equipped with a sword Charlotte referred to as Flying Swallow. Emil also activated his 100, which was similar to Claire's 100. When the two began training, Emil fired his cannons at Hayato without warning, but Hayato managed to activate his energy shield and block the attack. Emil was impressed by the rising shield hero, so he fired more energy beams at Hayato. Unfortunately, Hayato couldn't defend against the beams and was sent flying into a nearby wall. Emil didn't even feel bad for what he'd done and excitedly told Hayato he had a plan for him to win the duel before continuing with the training. A few hours later, as the two walked to the dormitory, Hayato saw that he had messages from his sister. This made him remember that he'd promised to visit her after the entrance ceremony, so he bid farewell to Emil and ran to the hospital where his sister Karen was receiving treatment for an illness that had been bothering her since she was a child. As expected, she was angry with him, but after he kissed her forehead, she forgave him. While the siblings were discussing, Karen's big melon nurse Mimaru arrived and informed them that visiting hours were over. Hayato turned into a bumbling fool when he saw Mimaru's jiggling plots. So Karen scolded him for letting his culturedness show. Later, Hayato arrived at the dormitory, but when he unlocked the door to his room, he met Emil in nothing but a towel. Emil freaked out and threw everything he could find at Hayato, including his box, which knocked Hayato out. When Hayato awoke later, he panicked because he was in Emil's lap and accidentally hit his head against the boy's nose. After a brief scolding session from both boys, Hayato asked Emil why he was in his room. Emil told him it was because they were roommates, after which he offered to sew Hayato's badge back on. While doing that, he accidentally pricked his finger, causing the memory of that night to flash in Hayato's mind. So without thinking, Hayato grabbed Emil's hand and sucked the blood. When he realized he was acting like a sus bloodsucker, he pulled away and apologized. He then put a band-aid on the wound and explained that he reacted that way because he couldn't bear to see anyone hurt. The next day, everyone gathered at the arena for the duel, and as Claire and Hayato stood facing each other, Liddy explained the rules. She told them that the time limit was 15 minutes, and that the match would end when one of the opponents was knocked out, ran out of energy, or disarmed. When she was done, Claire said she wouldn't use full-body armament to give Hayato a fighting chance. Just as the signal was given for the match to begin, Hayato accidentally activated the acceleration feature in his 100. This sent him flying towards Claire, and two fell on the ground with Hayato lying on top of Claire. The worst part was that he'd accidentally grabbed one of her plots.
Yeah, boy.
So Claire called him a degenerate cad. Hayato tried to explain that it was an accident, but Claire was so angry that she went full Saitama on him. The punch's force sent him flying into the wall, but she didn't stop there and unloaded her cannons on him. If not for Emil, who ordered Hayato to activate his energy barrier, he would have been toast. Claire kept firing shot after shot, so Hayato sliced through her attacks and tried to cut her down with his sword. She caught his blade before unleashing more cannon fire on him. Hayato dodged the attack as Emil advised him to change tactics. He channeled energy into his sword and struck at Claire, causing an explosion, but she defended herself with her cannons. Claire praised Hayato's effort, but warned he was far from defeating her. She then hit him with another powerful energy blast that nearly knocked him out. Noting that he'd lost a lot of energy, Claire asked Hayato if he was ready to give up, and he said no. He told her his plot armor was thicker than her backside, so there was no way in hell he'd lose to her. Seeing his determination, Claire decided to pull out the big guns and began preparing to fire her buster cannon, which surprised everyone. Hayato was hit with an unusual sensation just before her cannon finished charging, so he deflected the energy blast as soon as she released it. He then charged at Claire, sliced her cannon into two, and tried to cut her down. Claire began jumping around the arena like a kangaroo as she tried to avoid getting slashed by Hayato, who seemed to have unlocked his Jack the Ripper persona. This repeated action pushed Claire back, but she managed to reactivate her cannon and fire it at point-blank range at Hayato. Surprisingly, he was unharmed and had protected himself by activating his full-body armament and deploying an end barrier. Everyone, including Claire, was surprised to see that a rookie slayer such as Hayato had unlocked such a feature. The next moment, he charged at Claire again, so like Central C, she decided to go band for band with him and used her full-body armament too. This action resulted in Hayato's shield being blown to bits and him running out of energy. When his unconscious body hit the ground, Emil rushed to his side to check on him. Charlotte also entered the arena and told an annoyed Emil that Claire had won fair and square, but Claire surprised them by admitting that she'd lost. As Claire's mind was not changing, Charlotte announced that the duel was a tie. When Hayato awoke in the infirmary later that day, he saw Claire standing at his bedside. She informed him that she'd canceled the expulsion order, for which he was grateful. However, she demanded to know how he'd gone from pathetic weakling to Iron Man in a matter of minutes during the duel. Hayato admitted he had no recollection of what happened during the duel, and before she could grill him further, Emil came in. When he saw Claire in the room, he took a protective stance in front of Hayato, so Claire explained that she'd come to apologize, after which she left. The following day, Emil took Hayato to a park for sightseeing, and while there, Hayato noticed the place was crawling with couples. Just as he pointed it out to Emil, he got a call from Karen, and she complained about him not telling her about the duel. Hayato apologized for keeping it a secret, so Karen told him she called because she was reading his fortune and learned that a woman was bugging him. She asked Hayato if he was out with a girl, and he told her no, but Karen didn't believe him and insisted on coming to see for herself. A few minutes later, she arrived at the park, and after Emil introduced himself to her, she asked if he had the hots for Hayato. Emil assured her he was as straight as a pole and explained that he and Hayato were only roommates. Karen wasn't convinced that Emil wasn't hoping to get a taste of Hayato's lollipop. However, she decided to accept his explanation. Later, while they were having lunch, Claire, Liddy, Erica, and Claire's assistant, Chris, approached them. Claire told Hayato that she came looking for him because she wanted him to join Selections, a special unit under the student council. She explained that as a member of Selections, he would follow orders from Worslan, who manages Little Garden. He would execute those orders like a full-fledged slayer even though he was still a student. Amongst other things, he would be sent to guard various facilities and perform bodyguard duties if needed. She added that he didn't need to join, however. Just like Spider-Man's uncle, she believed that with great power comes great responsibility. Therefore, those who had power ought to wield it for the sake of those who lacked power. After her very moving monologue, Emil announced that he would also join Selections. Liddy pointed out that he didn't meet the requirements, so Emil challenged her to a duel to prove his worth. Liddy accepted the challenge because she felt Emil was disrespectful and needed to be taught a lesson. As they began the duel, an alarm went off, and Claire said they had to go as they had received information that savages had appeared on Zwei Island. Just as they were about to leave, Charlotte arrived and told Claire to take Hayato and Emil, which surprised them. Having no choice, Claire took Hayato and Emil with her and the other to the command center to get an update on the situation of Zwei Island. It turned out that 3 savages were on the island, and one of them was a Trenta class. After seeing this, Claire told Charlotte that she wouldn't take Emil and Hayato on the mission as they were clueless noobs with 0 battle experience. She said she, Liddy, and Erica would hold the savages off until reinforcements arrived from Worslan HQ. Just as they turned to leave, Hayato called out to her and insisted that she take them with her, but she refused. Charlotte then said it was Liz's idea to have Emil and Hayato join them for the mission. Since Liz's calculations and predictions were always accurate, Claire reluctantly agreed to let Hayato and Emil join the mission. During the short flight to the island, Claire briefed her team on their mission. She said that she, Liddy, and Erica would take out one of the small savages to demonstrate how to slay them. Once they had succeeded, Hayato and Emil would take out the other smaller one and retreat so that she and her team could handle the bigger one. When the plane entered the island's airspace, the big plotted Powerpuff Girls jumped out of it. They'd activated their hundreds midair and worked together to fight the first savage before Liddy destroyed its core. Excited to defeat his first savage, Emil pushed an unsuspecting Hayato out of the plane. Soon after they transformed, he gave Hayato a rundown of their plan to defeat the savage. Initially, the plan worked perfectly, however. Hayato struggled to get to the core, so Emil bought him more time. Eventually, he was thrown off the savage, but not before creating an opening for the green arrow and training to hit the core with his arrow. With the smaller savages taken care of, Claire, Liddy, and Erica turned their attention to the bigger one. They attempted to take it out using the same attack plan they used on the smaller one, but they seemed to have underestimated it. Liddy and Erica paid the price for this mistake, so Claire fired her buster cannon. The savage countered her attack with its blast, so she prepared to fire another shot. However, before she could fire it, she realized she was low on energy and wondered if it was because of her duel with Hayato the previous day. Her moment of confusion allowed the misconstructed kaiju to recharge and try to hit her with another blast. Fortunately, Hayato swooped in like Superman and saved her before she became history. As he landed on a roof, Erica called their attention to the savage preparing another energy blast. Immediately, Hayato tried to get out of the way with Claire, but Erica pointed out that if they did that, the people trying to evacuate the island at the airport would get hit. To avoid that, Claire and Hayato put up a combined barrier to block the attack and then release their energy simultaneously to blow the blast back. This action weakened Claire even more, so Emil began fighting the savage and told Hayato to make himself useful instead of trying to use his negative riz to score points with Claire. During the fight, Emil noticed that the unconscious Liddy was about to get hit by flying debris, so he rushed to save her. Emil attempted to protect Liddy with his shield, but the savage struck it down, injuring Emil and revealing her plots. This triggered a memory for Hayato of his past attempt to save a girl named Amelia, and he realized that Emil was Amelia. Fearing for her safety, he rushed to ensure she was unharmed and asked her to take Liddy somewhere safe. As he fought the savage, he was overcome with the same sensation from the duel and activated his full-body armament. However, this time, he lost control of his senses and began attacking the savage ruthlessly, not caring that his attacks threatened others. Just as Hayato was about to unleash his ultimate attack and destroy the savage, Amelia flew to him and stopped him with a kiss. The kiss brought him back to his senses, and she instructed him to finish off the savage by channeling all his energy into his sword. Hayato did it as she instructed and split the savage into 2 halves, thus saving everyone and completing the mission. When Hayato came back down, Amelia hugged him, but their moment was interrupted by Claire, who demanded to know why Amelia had plots and why she'd kissed Hayato. Amelia laughed awkwardly and told Claire that she discovered her secret. After they returned to Little Garden, Amelia informed Hayato that Claire had told her to continue acting like a guy, because it would confuse the other students if she suddenly revealed that she was a girl. However, she could no longer stay in the same room as Hayato to avoid immoral acts and temptations. Hayato was fine with the arrangement, but asked Amelia to tell him everything he knew. Amelia explained that because she was attacked by the Savage and survived after getting infected with its virus, she became a variant. She revealed that Hayato was also a variant because he tried to save her by sucking the poison out of her body. Suddenly, Hayato felt weak and fell on Amelia's chest. Amelia believed it was a side effect of the virus activating and kissed him without warning. Hayato asked why she'd done that, so she explained that one needed to administer an inactive one to suppress the virus. However, Hayato seemed to have enjoyed the kiss a little too much because he began leaning in for another, but was stopped when Claire barged into the room. When she saw their position, she scolded them for being inappropriate on school grounds, but Hayato assured her that it wasn't what it looked like. When he tried to stand up, he tripped over Amelia's foot and fell on top of Claire, kissing her in the process. Shocked by this, Claire demanded that Hayato take responsibility for stealing her first kiss, but the jealous Amelia told her to back off. She then tried to steal another kiss from Hayato, who wanted to avoid her. The following month, Sakura's manager called Little Garden and informed them that Sakura wanted Hayato to be her bodyguard during the concert. Hayato was then summoned to Claire's office, and she informed him that Sakura wanted him to be her bodyguard for her concert. Erica then told him that he needed to be careful as they had detected 7 savages in the area. They had taken care of 3 while the other 4 were supposedly shot down. However, the slayers had only found 1 body, so they were certain the other 3 were still hiding on the island. After this, Claire asked Hayato if he wanted anything in return for taking the mission, and he said yes. Later, he visited Karen and told her about his new mission. Karen was happy to hear it, and even happier when he told her that he'd requested a ticket from Claire for her. A few days later, Amelia woke Hayato up and told him she wanted to go out on a date with him. Hayato told her he couldn't because his mission was scheduled to begin that morning, which made her sad. Later, Hayato and Liddy picked up Sakura and her manager from the airport and took them to their hotel. When they arrived at the hotel, Sakura asked Hayato if he wanted to get married. She showed him the video she'd seen and admitted that she became interested in him after watching it. Hayato was surprised by her boldness, but Sakura told him not to be naive and began talking about what a powerful couple they would be. Hayato had to pull an Uno reverse and told her he would do whatever she wanted as long as she sealed the deal with a kiss. This made Sakura panic and rush into the bathroom to cool her temperature. While in the tub, Sakura called Hayato to bring her phone so she could record a tune. When he entered the bathroom, he noticed her clothes scattered and started picking them up. Embarrassed to see him holding her underwear, Sakura demanded her phone and asked him to leave. Unfortunately, she tripped over a bar of soap. Hayato rushed inside the bathroom to see if she was fine but realized he was looking at her in her birthday suit. Like a true gentleman, he turned away and handed the phone to her without looking. A few minutes later, Sakura emerged from the bathroom in a new outfit, and they left to attend the events she had for the day. They visited the concert venue where Sakura revealed she had 100 and activated it to show him how it worked. While she flew around the place, Charlotte and Mei arrived, so Hayato asked why they had come. Charlotte told him they had been called in to help since Sakura intended to use her 100 during her concert, and explained that Sakura's 100 was a field control type. It allowed her to create a personal field over a specific period, and use her sense energy to move around while creating illusions. However, she couldn't create weapons. Later that evening, as Hayato walked back to his lodgings, he called Claire and informed her that he wouldn't be on duty the next morning, so she instructed him to come to her summer home in the morning, as she had something to discuss with him. Hayato returned to the lodge and decided to take a bath, only to find Amelia there. He apologized for interrupting, but she asked him to stay. While in the bath, Amelia showed him the scar from her childhood attack. Flushed by the moment, Hayato turned away and changed the topic by asking her out on a date. Excited, Amelia hugged him from behind, causing him to fall into the water and accidentally grab her plots. Embarrassed, she screamed and ran out, leaving Hayato alone. Hayato went to Claire's summer house the next day to see her as instructed. However, when he arrived, he found the captain lying on her stomach in a bathing suit, while Erica rubbed some sunscreen on her back. Hayato tried not to look at her, but Claire made it impossible when she decided to stand up without realizing that her bikini top was loose, and flashed him her exposed melons. When she realized what she'd done, she screamed, causing Liddy the muscle mummy to get out of the pool and charge at Hayato. As if it was her fault, Claire had shown him her tatas. Before getting to him, she slipped on the sunscreen Erica dropped while trying to cover Claire and fell on top of Hayato. When she realized that her cave of wonders was directly in front of Hayato's mouth, she panicked and accidentally squeezed his family jewels, causing him to pass out from pain. When they finally got themselves under control, Claire told Hayato the reason she'd asked him to come. She said that they had received information from HQ that a variable stone was stolen from the concert venue during the chaos that ensued when the savages attacked the last time. Liddy added that Sakura had intended to use the stone during her concert, and there was no guarantee that the thieves wouldn't return to steal another stone. Because of this, they wanted him to keep his eyes peeled for any suspicious persons during the concert. After the briefing, Hayato went into town to meet Amelia for their date. Amelia showed up dressed as a girl, so he asked what she'd do if they ran into anyone from their school, and she assured him that they wouldn't because they were far from where Little Garden was docked. They then went to the mall where Hayato changed his outfit and bought Amelia a necklace because she said she wanted one as a memento for their date. Just as they were about to leave the store, they spotted Fritz and Reitia walking in, so they hid inside one of the dressing rooms and didn't come out until the coast was clear. Outside, they sat by a fountain, and when Hayato complained about the heat, Amelia left to buy them drinks. While waiting for her to return, he received a call from Claire, who asked him to watch out for Sakura because she had left her hotel room. When he hung up the phone, Sakura appeared out of nowhere and told him she'd come looking for him. Hayato asked how she'd found him, and she admitted that she tracked him through his GPS before he could tell her that her behavior was similar to that of an obsessed stalker. She told her they had somewhere to be. Hayato tried to refuse because he knew Amelia would return soon. However, when he remembered that things could get ugly if both girls met, he changed his mind. Amelia returned a few minutes after they left and began wondering where Hayato had gone. Meanwhile, inside the cab taking Hayato and Sakura to their destination, Hayato texted Claire explaining the situation while Sakura contacted her manager to let her know they were together. Their destination turned out to be the island's Grand Canyon, and Sakura had brought him there to show it to him because it was a place she and her mother loved. Sakura thanked Hayato for saving the island and protecting the place she and her mother loved. As they enjoyed the view, Sakura hummed a song Hayato had heard Karen hum a few times before. When he mentioned this, Sakura claimed Karen couldn't know it since her mother had composed it for her. Curiously, she asked about Hayato's sister and then inquired if he had been in a downtown shelter during the second savage attack, to which he replied yes. Sakura then explained that she'd lost her mother during that attack and had felt sad until she met two siblings to whom she sang her mother's song. Before they parted ways, the brother told her that her singing made him feel better, which sparked her love for singing. She told Hayato that she was glad she met him again after all those years had passed. Hayato asked where she'd gone after leaving the shelter, so she told him that her father had picked her up the day after they met. Shortly after moving in with her father, she became ill with an unknown virus, which caused her to lose her voice. When she failed to get better, her father sold her to a research facility, where under the orders of Vitaly Tinyanov, the director of the lab, they injected her and other children with a vaccine made from the fluids of the savage. Most of the children died, but she was among the ones who survived and regained her voice. However, they kept injecting them with the vaccine as Vitaly's goal was to create slayers artificially. The kids began experiencing severe side effects which made them violent, so Sakura calmed them down by singing. Eventually, Sakura was the only one left, but she was fortunate enough to be found by Sofal and Charlotte. Sakura sadly admitted that the vaccine had turned her into a variant, so Hayato told her that he was also a variant, hoping to cheer her up, and it did. Excitedly, she told him fate brought them together and said they had to return because the muses had inspired her. They then took a bus heading back to the city, but on the way, they were attacked by a savage which came out of nowhere. Despite not having his variable suit, Hayato activated his 100 and fought the savage to protect Sakura and the other passengers. While he fought the savage, it attempted to hit him with its energy beam. Hayato tried to defend himself, but Sakura rushed in and told him to focus on attacking, while she defended him with her barriers. This arrangement worked like a charm and allowed Hayato to defeat the savage in record time without breaking a sweat. As soon as the savage fell dead before them, Sakura flung herself at Hayato and began praising him for a job well done and calling him her husband. The next moment, another savage blasted them with its beam. Sakura defended against it with her barrier until the force was too much to handle, and she was pushed back. Hayato caught her before she hit the ground, but that meant he couldn't attack the savage. Fortunately, backup arrived in the form of Fritz, Reitia, and Amelia, and they hit the savage before cutting off its arms. Amelia then inserted herself between Hayato and Sakura, letting him know she hadn't forgiven him for ditching her. Sakura just stared at the unwanted third wheel, wondering why she was coming between her and her supposed man. Just then, they noticed the savage trying to get back up, so Amelia reactivated her 100 and cut off its stuck-in arm. Fritz shot at its head so Reitia could find an opening to destroy its core, what she missed. Amelia decided to finish the job with her trusty bow and arrow, but when she released her arrow, the savage deflected it using its arm which had regenerated. Amelia then devised a plan to defeat it, but they failed when they set their plan into motion. The savage prepared to blast them with its beam, but Sakura screamed at it to stop and surprisingly it did. This surprised Hayato, but he recovered quickly and charged at the savage. Before he could strike it, an unknown boy came out of nowhere and stopped him. His teammates soon arrived, and the one with an eye patch used her 100 which was in her eye, like a 3D printer to trace and recreate Hayato's sword. The savage tried to attack just then, so the trio got rid of it. However, instead of walking away from the dead body, the eye patch girl, whose name was Nessa, kept stabbing the core, causing the savage's fluid to splatter all over her. Reitie tried to get her to stop as being exposed to the savage's fluid was dangerous, but Nakri, the try-hard Harley Quinn of the group, knocked her down. Fritz tried to retaliate but was also knocked down, so Amelia charged at the girl. Hayato attempted to lend her a hand, but the boy, Kroven, got in his way, and as they fought, Hayato realized that Kroven was a variant. Amelia managed to knock down her opponent, but when she tried to help Hayato, Kroven deflected her attack with his barrier. Annoyed, she demanded to know who they were and what they were after, but they ignored her. Nesset took the cores of the dead savages and told Kroven and Nakri that it was time they left since reinforcements were approaching. Not long after they left, Hayato and the others were rescued and taken back to town. Claire called them into her office and informed them that the trio they encountered were slayers who worked for an illegal organization, and they were known as hunters. They were also told that the body of the last savage was found in the wastelands with its core removed. Reitie asked why they needed the cores, so Charlotte explained that savage cores were similar to variable stones and could be used to recreate 100. Claire wasn't pleased she'd share this information with them, so she instructed them never to tell anyone what they heard. Many people attended Sakura's concert the next day as if it were Beyoncé's first concert of the year. During the concert, she sang the song her mother had composed, and immediately after Karen heard it, she recognized it. She asked Hayato if Sakura was the girl they met years ago, and he said yes. The concert went on without a hitch and Sakura wowed her fans with her amazing vocals. Hayato, Karen, and the others said goodbye at the airport the next day. After Sakura gave Karen her autograph, she surprisingly kissed Hayato's cheek and promised to see him soon before boarding the plane. True to her word, she snuck into his bedroom while he slept. When Hayato began asking questions, Claire and Amelia entered the room and things escalated from there. Days later, Hayato, Karen, Amelia, Sakura, Fritz, Reitie, Claire, Erika, Liddy, and Mayaru all went to the beach. Amelia tried to contain her jealousy as she watched Sakura playing with Hayato in the water while she sat on the beach dressed as a boy. After playing in the water for a while, they sat down to eat, and when they were done, Hayato and Amelia joined Fritz and Reitie to play volleyball. The game quickly turned into an impromptu tournament of power until Hayato attempted to catch the ball and fell face first between Claire's fleshy mountains. Amelia and Sakura were about to berate him for his mistake when a helicopter bearing the Warsland crest landed on the beach. Claire's older brother and CEO of Warsland, Judel Harvey, emerged from it. He complimented Claire's swimsuit, but she asked him to keep his compliments for the women stupid enough to fall for his playboy riz. Judel introduced himself to Hayato and the others before asking Claire to return to Little Garden with him, as they had something important to discuss. Later, Claire summoned Hayato, Amelia, Fritz, and Rada to her office. She informed the latter two that they were now officially members of Selections, and then told the group that they were joining other UN peacekeeping groups for an anti-savage cleanup operation. Soon after the group left Claire's office to prepare for their mission, Judel approached Hayato and asked him to accompany him somewhere. He took Hayato to a room where a blonde girl slept in a capsule, and he told him that she was the source of Little Garden's power supply. Judel likened her to a modern-day Sleeping Beauty and then introduced her as Liza Harvey, the power source of Little Garden, and the very first variant and slayer created by man. Hayato was shocked as he realized that not only was Liza, the upgraded Siri, a real human, but she was also Clary and Judel's younger sister. Just as he tried to digest this information, Claire showed up and pointed a gun at Judel. She asked Judel why he brought Hayato there, and Judel said it was because Hayato had divine blood, which could wake Liza up. Hayato and Claire were surprised by his words, but Judel didn't offer any further explanation. He simply told Hayato to place his hand on Liza's capsule and release his energy into it, so he did. Unfortunately, all they got was a light show and Liza continued her slumber. So Judel expressed his disappointment at Liza not waking up. He said that as long as Vitaly was alive, Liza wasn't safe as Vitaly was plotting something. After they left Liza's room, Claire told Hayato that she would explain everything about how Liza came to be like that when the time was right. She also told him that if he told anyone about what he said, she'd cut out his tongue and feed it to him. The next day, the selections team and the student council members arrived at the base camp for the anti-savage cleanup operation. Hayato and Amelia were about to walk into Little Garden's command tent when a girl ran and tackled Amelia to the ground. The girl kept referring to Amelia as Princess Amelia, which Hayato found strange, so Amelia took them to a quiet corner to talk. There she revealed that her real name was Amelia Gutenberg, and she was the third princess of Gutenberg. The girl who had tackled Amelia to the ground was named Claudia, and she didn't like Hayato one bit. She begged Amelia to return to Gutenberg with her, but Amelia refused and said she wanted to remain where Hayato was. Claudia was shocked by Amelia's decision, as she couldn't see what Amelia saw in a loser like Hayato. Hoping to take Amelia back by force, she challenged Hayato to a duel and told him that if he lost, she would take Amelia back. They then went to a dojo to have the duel, and much to Claudia's annoyance, Hayato won. The next day, all the slayers are out in different teams, and somehow Hayato and Amelia end up in the same group as Claudia. While the slayers took out the savages in their various groups, they were unaware the hunters were watching them. When evening came, Hayato's group made camp, and after they ate, Claire proposed splitting into two teams. One would stay awake and guard the place while the other slept. Amelia quickly attached herself to Hayato, saying she would be on his team, but Claire and Claudia objected. In the end, Amelia was paired with Erica, and she grumbled about not being on Hayato's team the entire time they were on guard duty. Later, when it was Hayato, Claudia, and Claire's turn, Claudia claimed she'd spotted a large shadow heading towards the lake and asked Hayato and Claire to check it out while she stayed back. On the way, they spotted a savage and tried to radio Claudia to tell her, but discovered that their radios weren't working. Having no choice, Claire opened fire on the savage, but before she could deliver the final hit, she slipped and fell in the mud. Thankfully, Hayato came to her rescue and finished the savage off before it could harm her. Since her clothes got dirty from her fall, the duo went to the lake so Claire could wash up. To pass the time, Claire told Hayato about Lisa. She said that unlike him and Amelia, who became variants because the savage virus infected them, Lisa had been born a variant. Their mother and Vitaly had injected savage fluids into a fertilized egg, and that was how Lisa came about. She exhibited signs and traits uncommon in slayers at a young age, proving that the experiment had worked. However, one day, she released a forbidden power to save Claire, and ever since then, she's been sleeping in that capsule. Just then, they received an emergency call on the radio, so Claire hurried out of the water to put her suit back on. While she got dressed, Hayato responded to the emergency call and learned that the hunters were taking out the slayer groups one by one. When the radio went silent, Claire and Hayato noticed a flare in the sky, and Hayato deduced that Fritz had released it. Claire ordered him to return to their camp and inform the girls about what was happening while she went to lend Fritz's group a hand. She arrived at Fritz's camp just as Kroven was about to finish off Liddy and take her 100. She told the trio that she would make them pay for hurting her comrades and demanded they tell her what Vitaly was plotting. Nakri attempted to attack her, but Claire shot down her weapons and told her not to mess with her. Suddenly it began to rain, and Kroven told Messet and Nakri that luck was on their side because he knew that Claire couldn't use her cannons in the rain. Immediately, they began attacking Claire, not allowing her to switch out her cannons for other weapons. Corvin knocked her down and was about to finish her off when Erica arrived and used her chains to bind him. He struggled to break free, but Erica informed him that the chain was as strong as Wonder Woman's lasso and couldn't be broken easily. When he looked up, he saw that Amelia and Claudia had disarmed Nakri and Nessat. Claire then stood up and ordered them to surrender, but Kroven told her they wouldn't. Suddenly, he tapped into his variant powers and broke free from his chains, surprising everyone. During that time, Nessat escaped from Amelia before creating blasters, using her 100 and opening fire on Claudia. Kroven charged at Claire, but Hayato got in his way and began fighting him instead. Amelia fought Nakri and knocked her out with a punch, so Nessat tried to avenge her friend. Amelia dodged her attacks and destroyed her blasters, which exploded all around her. As she sat on the ground trying to create another weapon, Amelia pointed a sword at her eye and said she'd turn her into a one-eyed pirate if she didn't stop. Meanwhile, as Kroven and Hayato fought, Hayato began seeing flashes of Kroven's memories. It turned out that he and the girls used to be slaves, but they escaped their masters and wandered around for a long time. It was during that period that Nessat fell and injured her eye, but they were lucky to have been rescued by Vitaly. She was the one who gave Nessat a new eye and injected them with this savage virus, which turned them into variants. Vitaly had promised them that the variant's power would free them, and they had believed her. In the present, Kroven continued using his variant power to fight Hayato, forcing him to activate his full-body armament. Claire tried to convince Kroven to stop using his powers because it would make him go berserk, but he told her she lacked the skills to execute a talk no jutsu. The next moment, a dragon-type variant emerged from the water and began shooting beams in all directions. Claire became worried, as she knew the other teams were defenseless since Kroven and his team had taken their hundreds. To her surprise, Kroven returned the hundreds to her and said he would call a ceasefire if they allowed him to defeat the savage and take its core. Kroven charged at the savage but was stopped by its barrier. Despite his efforts, he couldn't break through. The savage then blasted him from the sky, but Hayato caught him before he fell. Claire and Amelia fired at the savage, but the barrier held strong. Erica suggested calling in Longranga's slayers for help, but Claire noted their radios were jammed, so Knesset then disabled the jamming device. Claire quickly contacted Little Garden, where Charlotte confirmed Erica's plan. She informed the other Slayers, but the Savage took most of them out before they could fight back, keeping the barrier intact. Despite their efforts, they lacked the firepower and were vulnerable. Charlotte then told Claire that Hayato needed to share his variant power for them to win. Amelia protested as she didn't want to witness Hayato tongue wrestling Claire, but changed her mind when she realized it was for their good. Hayato and Claire then kissed, and after that, they opened fire on the Savage again. But this time, Claire had more energy to boost her beams. Finally, the barrier was destroyed and Hayato charged at the Savage. Using his variant power, he sliced it in half along with its core. However, he'd overexerted himself, so he fell into the water along with the body of the Savage and had to be rescued by Amelia, who kissed him to neutralize his variant virus. Meanwhile, at Vitali's lab, she told herself it was time to implement her plans, not caring that Kroven and the others had been captured. Days later, Hayato joined Amelia and Sakura for a meeting in Claire's office. Claire informed them that the hunters were behaving but refusing to give up any information on Vitali. She said Warslan Intelligence had discovered Vitali's lab, but when they raided it, she was already gone, and all the important information had been erased. Because of this, she wanted to increase security for the upcoming school festival since it was open to the public. Claire told them she requested assistance from the Slayers who helped them with the anti-Savage cleanup operation. As the preparation for the festival continued, Hayato dropped by the hospital to see Karen and was surprised to see Sakura sneaking into her room. When he walked into the room, he saw it had been transformed into a makeshift recording studio, so he asked what was happening. The girls and Charlotte, who was with them, explained that Karen would perform with Sakura during her concert. Hayato became worried due to Karen's illness, but they assured him she would be fine. Karen showed him her 100 and Sakura explained that Karen could move about with it. Hayato was surprised, as he hadn't known Karen could use 100. So Charlotte explained that she developed an affinity to the 100 during Karen's treatment. Sakura praised Karen's dedication to mastering her 100 and singing, but she said she still had a long way to go. Hayato looked at Karen with pride and told her he knew she would do well. Sakura then kicked him out, saying he couldn't visit until after the concert. A few days later, the festival began, and people poured in from all over to enjoy the festival. Claudia was the only one unhappy because she was stationed outside away from all the festivities. Hayato went to see Karen and Sakura in her dressing room to wish them good luck before the concert. While they were discussing, Judel unexpectedly showed up and said he wanted to wish the girls good luck. Soon after he left, Sakura went on stage and performed the first song for the day, leaving her fans screaming with joy. Meanwhile, Vitali snuck into the ship and controlled one of the guards to unlock a hallway for Vitali, so she could walk around undetected. At the concert arena, Sakura brought Karen on stage and introduced her to the people. After giving a little speech, Karen activated her 100 and began singing. Everyone, including Liza, enjoyed Karen's song, unaware that Vitali was creeping about and turning the vacuum robots evil. When Karen concluded her song, Sakura announced that they would sing a duet, and as they began singing, Chris informed Claire that a guard was found unconscious near one of the gates with no memory of how she got there. Outside, a mechanical bee approached some of the students, so Erica and Raitia moved to capture it because they sensed it was harmful. Erica caught it with her chain, but the next second, it exploded, leaving them confused. They soon spotted another one going towards an electrical relay, so Raitia used her beam to push it away before it exploded. Unfortunately, their efforts were pointless because similar explosions began happening around the ship, causing the power supply to drop. Those at the command center soon discovered that the bees were being created from the cleaning robots, so Claire ordered that all the remaining cleaning robots be shut down. Just then, Erica called and informed Claire that she'd found variable stones in the remains of the bees, making them realize that Vitali was behind everything. Immediately, she announced that the festival was on hold and instructed security to escort the civilians to safety. While everyone focused on fighting the bees, they were unaware that one of them had snuck into the server room and uploaded a virus into the system. The systems crashed, failing to detect planes speeding towards Little Garden. Claudia and her team dodged the aircrafts when they crash-landed but discovered it was carrying Vitali's artificial savages. Despite their efforts to stop the savages from boarding, they were pushed back. Claire then ordered Liddy to assist them while Erica dealt with the bees. Just then, Hayato and Amelia arrived at the command center, where Charlotte updated them. She was still speaking when the system detected another plane heading for the ship. Fortunately, the ship's barriers were still intact, so when the plane crashed it didn't affect the ship. However, the aircraft was also transporting Vitali's savages, and these savages were bigger than the first ones. They soon began hitting the barrier, hoping to break it and invade the ship, so Hayato and Amelia volunteered to go and stop them. Meanwhile, Vitali walked into the room where Kroven and the girls were and announced that she was attacking Little Garden. She returned their hundreds to them and told them she needed their help. but Kroven said he wouldn't help her hurt innocent people. Amused by his sudden rebellion, Vitaly told him he had no choice. She then pushed a button on a remote which produced a sound similar to the one she used against Wendy, causing them to fall to their knees. When Mei arrived, Vitaly shot at her, but she dodged the bullets and kicked Vitaly to the ground. She then rushed to check on the hunters, but Vitaly got up and shot her arm before ordering the trio to follow her. Since Mei was a robot, the gunshot wound didn't affect her, so she tried to stop the hunters from going with Vitaly. Kroven used his powers to prevent her from chasing after them. From the command center, Claire watched as Vitaly and the hunters made their way to Sector 11, the place where Liz's body was. Judel suddenly called Claire and asked her to leave Vitaly to him as he knew her more than anyone else. Claire tried to protest, but Judel told her to have a little faith in him. Vitaly and her lackeys continued their journey to Sector 11, but Nakri was knocked unconscious when she walked through an electric defense system. Instead of helping her, Vitaly told Kroven and Nesat to keep moving, but they refused, so she pulled out her remote again. Before she could press it, Mei shot it out of her hand and told Vitaly that they weren't her slaves. She kept shooting Vitaly as she drew closer to them, so Vitaly defended herself and shot Mei's leg, but she ran out of bullets and decided to escape. Vitaly soon arrived at Sector 11, and as she approached Liz's capsule, Judel emerged from the shadows. He told Vitaly he'd been expecting her, but she wasn't happy to see him. She pointed her gun at him and said she was going to make him pay for making her think that he loved her. Her attack on Little Garden was her way to get revenge on Judel for dumping her. She said she was going to start by destroying the Slayers, and as she said this, all the artificial savages began emitting sounds which affected only the Slayers. Judel didn't seem fazed by what she did and told her to surrender. Vitaly said she wasn't interested, and then shot at Liz's capsule, but was surprised when nothing happened. However, she noticed that Liza was awake and asked how that happened. So Judel explained that Sakura's voice pulled Liza out of her eternal slumber. He also revealed that he'd known she wanted to attack Little Garden and had let her do it because it would help him in the long run. Annoyed that she had let herself be used by Judel again, Vitaly tried to shoot him, but Liza protected him. When she ran out of bullets, Judel shot her, and after she died, he instructed Liza to return to her capsule until it was time for her to come out again. Liza refused, saying she had a few things she needed to take care of, after which she vanished. She materialized in the arena before Sakura and Karen and asked them to sing, saying their song would help the Slayers. Before disappearing, she kissed Karen on the forehead and said that she would be able to walk. Both girls then activated their 100, and as they began singing, the Slayers regained their strength. This allowed Hayato to destroy the savages trying to break the barrier, even though he used up all his strength. The body of the savage fell through the weakened barrier, but thankfully it didn't harm anyone. Unfortunately, it was still alive, so it got up and shot its beam toward the arena where Sakura and Karen were. However, Kroven, Nesat, and Nakri arrived and deflected the beam using their combined powers. The savage faced them, and since Nakri was weak, she was the first to get hit. Kroven became angry when he saw the injured Nakri, so he asked Nesat to watch over her while he fought the savage. After fighting the savage for a while, it overpowered him and was about to blast him with its beam when Nesat intervened. She used her 100 to trace the savage and transformed herself into a replica. She destroyed it just as Claire arrived, but because she used too much of her power, she lost control of her senses and attacked Claire. After Claire used her barrier to protect herself, Charlotte contacted her and told her that Nesat was in the same situation as Liza when she went out of control. She said if they didn't do anything to stop Nesat, she would lose control of all her energy and explode, taking them along with her. She said the only way to stop Nesat was to destroy her variable stone, but the possibility of her emerging alive was very low. Meanwhile, Liza visited Hayato in his mind and begged him to save both Nesat and Little Garden. To wake him up, she kissed him and everything around him began to glow. Thankfully, he arrived at the scene before Claire could use her cannon against Nesat and asked her to give him a chance to try and save Nesat. Hayato equipped his full-body armament and approached Nesat. He planned to talk to her and snap her back to reality, but Nesat was too far gone and kept attacking him. When it looked like he was getting through to her, Nesat lost control of her energy and was about to explode. Hayato quickly channeled his energy into his sword and slammed it against her head, allowing him to enter her mind. He convinced Nesat to trust him in Little Garden, and they both returned to the real world. Amelia rushed to hug Hayato when she saw him, while Kroven helped Nakir walk towards them with a smile. Claire remained where she was, and as she observed the scene on the ground, Liza hugged her from behind and thanked her for protecting Little Garden. Later that night, Hayato and Amelia stood on the roof of a building watching the fireworks, and Amelia told Hayato that she wanted to remain at his side. Before he could react, she kissed him, and he kissed her back since his feelings were mutual. The next moment, their friends opened the door, and when they saw the two kissing, they'd almost had a heart attack. Amelia had become clean and confessed to them that she was a girl, not a boy, as she'd led them to believe, which surprised them. However, Claire was pissed, and she fired her cannons at them, narrowly missing them, and making Amelia complain. That's it for today's video. Don't forget to check out our channel to see if your favorite anime has been recapped.